Hello everyone, it's Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you're all with me today because today's video is going to be part informational, but also I've got a ton of book recs for you all. So yes, my lips are done. My hair's somewhat done because I was making some TikTok videos and I was doing my makeup and hair for all of that. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, you should definitely go over there and follow me over there. I feel like I'm very late to the TikTok game, but here we are now and I'm having fun with it. So this video, I'm going to be talking about Disability Pride Month, which is the theme, I guess, or one of the themes that's celebrated in the month of July. So June, we have Pride Month, and July, we have Disability Pride Month, which tries to focus on various disabilities, having awareness for disabilities, and then also especially because a lot of legislature that is being passed right now is being pretty harmful to people with disabilities. So just kind of being aware about disabilities. So like I said, this video is going to be part informational and part book recommendations. I will have timestamps down below if you want to just skip to the book recommendations. You're more than welcome to. However, this is really important stuff. So take that what you will. But before we get into all of that, please make sure you are hitting that thumbs up button on this video if you like it, and also subscribe if you haven't already. I post videos every Thursday and Sunday, and I'm working on trying to be more consistent with posting shorts as well. So my goal is to post at least one short a week. If I can post two, that's awesome. But that's my goal at the moment, trying to grow this account and grow all my other accounts. So if you like this, thank you for joining. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so grateful for everybody that is here. So Disability Pride Month, yes. So Disability Pride was first celebrated, the month of Disability Pride Month was first celebrated fairly recently in 2015, which is 25 years after the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, which is a bill that granted, it was like an anti-discriminatory bill that, people with disabilities can't be treated differently, or like you can't get like hiring practices with jobs, so on and so forth, things like that. So there is a flag that goes along with it because disability is not just physical disabilities. There's so many different things that can be considered a disability. One of the reasons why I think this is really important to talk about is that this is the only marginalized group of people that anybody can find themselves going into, for lack of a better terminology with that. So like I am a cis white woman. I will never be able to experience the things that a Black person is going to experience, or a Latina person is going to experience. However, you can become disabled. You might get into like a car accident through no fault of your own. Things just happen. Or, chronic diseases. And, that's not something that you can ever really prepare yourself for. And it may never happen, but it could. Or same with like, anybody, if whether you're poor or whether you're rich, whatever kind of group that you find yourself falling into at any point in your life, you could potentially become disabled. So I think it's very important that we have protections for people with disabilities, and any kind of like accommodations that can make lives of people with disabilities a little bit easier for themselves. So that being said, like I said, there is a flag associated with Pride Disability Month. And it's very colorful, kind of like the June Pride Month flag. This one, all of the colors have different representations for different types of disabilities. So red is for physical disabilities. That could be any type of physical disability, loss of a limb or things of that nature. The yellow band is for neurodiversity. White is for invisible disabilities, or the disabilities that are yet to be diagnosed, because a lot of people have certain disabilities and they just don't really realize it, or they're just, you know, for whatever reason, don't want to have that diagnosis, which I can relate. Blue is for emotional psychiatric disabilities, including mental illness. So, like, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. All of those, any type of mental illness disorder diagnoses would fall under this category. Green is for sensory disabilities. So this one I believe would be more like hearing, blindness, those type of disabilities, because those are your senses. And then the black background symbolizes mourning for victims of ableist abuse. And then it's diagonal across the flag, that represents the light and creativity coming through, shining through the darkness. So I love the thought that is put into this flag. This is also something that's important to me. Just kind of being a little vulnerable here, which some of this I feel like a lot of you already kind of know, especially if you've been watching several of my videos over the past few months and the past summer. So I have anxiety and I also have depression. Depression for me, it's basically, it comes and goes. It's been coming and going throughout my whole adult life. I first realized that I had depression because I went into a deep depression after the birth of my first child, which I think was still technically called postpartum depression, even though it didn't hit me until I actually went back to work when she was about 3 months old. But my physician at the time had told me that anytime in the first year of life and the mother has depression, can be considered postpartum depression. So that was like my first real, like, really bad bout of depression. I've also had like seasonal depression. I get really, really sad in the winter months. And then this year and throughout the course of me being on YouTube, I've had lows that I've gone through. There was at one point that I didn't post any videos for several months just because I was so depressed and I couldn't even just trying to get myself to read was an act in itself. So I felt like I couldn't come on here and post videos because I had really nothing to talk about. And then this year, I've also had another bout, so to speak, of depression. So anxiety and depression are things that I've been dealing with. I'm also like 99% sure I have ADHD, which kind of why the whole white invisible disability or disabilities yet to be diagnosed kind of resonates with me, because I just haven't necessarily wanted to go see a doctor and seek out that formal diagnosis, mostly because I just don't know how that could affect my life and how it could make things different. Where for the most part, I've kind of learned to live with it and I found ways of coping with it, except for the certain times when I can't cope. So that's kind of like my worry of actually getting a formal diagnosis of this, of, potentially being placed on medications and how those medications might make me feel, which is a big fear, I feel like, for a lot of people with mental health illnesses, is the medications, because sometimes those medications can really dole you out. And I still want to be able to have my full personality. I don't necessarily want it to change me, so to speak. So that's, just one of the fears that I have. And then I also have chronic migraines. I've had chronic migraines since I was a child. I remember being in elementary school. I don't remember exactly how old I was, maybe 10. I don't know. My memory is not always the best, specifically like childhood, like specific ages. But I just remember coming home and my head was hurting so badly. I thought I was dying. Like, I thought somebody was just digging into my head and digging my brain, and it was unbearable. It was the worst kind of pain I have ever experienced, and I was a child when this happened. Which apparently is something that can run in families because my mother also has chronic migraines. So at least she kind of like knew what was going on and knew what to do. But yeah, I've had chronic migraines forever, it seems like. So that one I have specific like medications that I take for that. But for me with my chronic migraines, like when I get them, it's just, I am not functional when I have a migraine. It is the worst type of pain. And if I try to like work through it, because I get them sometimes like when I'm at work, I've realized like certain triggers that can set off my migraines. But if I'm at work and I try to push through it, it makes me so nauseated and it makes the pain so much worse. So I have like sometimes I'll get sick with them. It affects my vision as well. So I won't be able to see. I have like light sensitivities. So the best thing for me when I have a migraine is just to come home and I have my medication that I take and I darken the room and I just take a nap. And sometimes that knocks me out for the full day, which is hard when I am a single parent and working and when I have my little kids. Because I honestly, I cannot function when I have a migraine and trying to take care of my kids. Thankfully, usually when I have a migraine, I'm able to find family members, friends, somebody that can watch, like take my kids from my house and watch them for, at least a couple of hours. So I'm very grateful for that. But I don't know. So me like kind of delving into, I know this is getting really, really chatty. I would promise I'm going to get to the book rec soon. But me kind of delving into and exploring more about disabilities has made me realize that I have these disabilities, even though none of them are more like physical disabilities. So I feel like I get a lot of times that like imposter syndrome that it's like, oh, I'm not disabled enough. Since it's not a visible disability, I feel like a lot of times my disabilities are kind of just like brushed to the side. And it's something that's kind of it's been difficult at times, especially my migraines, because working full time, corporate America values people that go to work every day. And then being penalized because I miss days of work for something that I can't control has been in the past has been a really big stressor for me because I'll get to a certain point of missing days and being threatened with losing my job because I've missed so many days. And it's like, I'm sorry, like, this is not something I can control. Yeah, so that's been a really big stressor for me. Luckily, my job does have FMLA. So, talking with some other people, I realized I have been able to get intermittent FMLA for my chronic migraines since they are not something that I can control, so that I am not penalized for missing work so many days. Yeah, that's just something that's been very frustrating for me in the past because it's like I've seen coworkers that will get rewarded for a perfect attendance and going above and beyond. And that is just not something that I will ever be able to do because I will always have migraines. There are ways that I can try to cope with it and make it a little bit better. Or like my medications that I take, they can make it less frequent, but I'm still going to have these migraines, and that's not something that I can do or control. So, anyway, so that's a little bit more about me. Maybe a little bit more than you all wanted to know, but I think it's important to kind of put that stuff out there just to let people know that you're not alone. Which is also why it's so important to have representation in books. So, enough about me and all of that. Now we're going to get into the book recs, which I have quite a lot, if I'm being perfectly honest. I have a lot. And I have so many more on my TBR. I'm actually hoping to read more this month, but reading has just been kind of slow for me this month. I've had so much going on and I've been so busy with other things that my like reading time, I haven't had that much time to devote to reading. But I'm very hopeful that I will be able to read more books with disabilities. But I have 12 books to talk about. This video is going to be really long. I'm sorry about that. But these are so good. I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can with talking about all of these. And I have a really good mix of books in here. There is some historical romance. There is some alien romance. There's some contemporary romance. Just a really good variety of books. And then again, I'm trying to read some more. So that was my July TBR. So if you haven't watched that yet, you can check that up in the cards. But there's other books that I have listed in that TBR that I'm wanting to read that have some disability rep in them. So first book that I have to recommend is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is a standalone. This is hard for me to describe. I don't know. I feel like this is a little bit more like women's fiction with a little bit of romance to it. But this one is like a second chance between our two characters. They had a fling when they were teenagers in this week long in June, and now they are adults. They are both very successful authors. Our female main character, she writes romance stories. Our male main character, he writes just like general fiction stories. And it's June again, and they run into each other again and kind of have this like whirlwind week together, rekindling the flames. And they realize that both of them have been writing about each other in their books. And it's very cute. This one, our female main character has chronic migraines, which honestly for me, as somebody that has chronic migraines, was really great to see that in a character, because it made me feel seen. Sorry, I didn't think I was gonna tear up for this. I'm sorry, guys. Moving on. Then I have Painted Scars by Neva Altaj, which actually, like, this entire series could be listed here. I've only read the first 3 books of the series, but I think it's like a 10-book series. These are mafia romances. This one is an arranged marriage, which I think most of the books in this series are arranged marriage as well. But our female main character is getting married to the Pakan of the Russian Bratva. And they're in this arranged marriage because he uses mobility aids. He has difficulty with walking, and I feel like I'm trying to remember how it happened, but I know it like certain times he is able to walk with a cane, but then other times the pain is too much and he has to get around with a wheelchair. And he has all these thoughts about that she can't really find him attractive and that nobody would actually want him. So that's the only reason that he was able to find some, like, get married to a woman is through an arranged marriage. So her kind of working with him and like breaking down some of those walls, it was superb. Like I said, this whole series features characters with disabilities, and I've quite enjoyed the books that I read from it. Then we have several books from Ruby Dixon on here. First up is Debbie's Distraction by Ruby Dixon. This is part of the Ice Home series. I have this as book 2, but I don't think that's right. This is several books in, I feel like. Anyway, so this is a series that is a spinoff from Ice Planet Barbarians. There are these women that have been taken, and they've crash landed on the Ice Planet Barbarians world, but they're in like a different section of the planet, and this section actually has some more not icy bits to it. So there's just a bunch of women and these aliens that are kind of helping them out. And we have our male main character of the story. He has a limb loss, and our female main character is a scientist. So he asked her to help him basically make a prosthetic leg, which she has never done stuff like that before. Like her science field where she was at was not with anatomy, but she loves a challenge. So she's gonna help him out. This one was probably my favorite from the Ice Home series. Same with the next book, Enticed by the Corsair by Ruby Dixon. This is the third book of the Corsair series, which is another spinoff from the Ice Planet Barbarian series. But this one is space pirates. It's this group of big blue alien dudes, and they're traveling space, and they're pirates. So they come across this ship that was actually kind of like a slave ship almost. But it was transporting illegal goods, and they take it out and realize that there is a human woman that has been captive on this ship. So she is blind, which this one still gets me to this day. Like, it was so hard for me to read. Her eyes were taken as punishment. Like, it's just freaking gut-wrenching to me that happened to this fictional character. And so she has a lot of trauma, obviously, and our male main character is just so sweet and patient and kind towards her, and it's very beautiful. Then we have a couple Kennedy Ryan books on here as well. We have Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This one is a second chance romance between a married couple. They have gotten divorced, but they are still like trying to co-parent together, and they run a business together. So they still have to see each other, and they're realizing that they still have a great love for one another. And they still have a magnetism towards one another, but both of them are trying to like move on, and sparks fly and they rekindle their love, and it's so great. But this one deals with depression. Our female main character definitely has a deep depression, but this also has talks of grief. Both of our characters are going through a very tough time and grieving a loss, excuse me. And our male main character is starting to go to therapy. So this one is so good. I loved it. Real by Kennedy Ryan, another amazing book. This one is actually turning into a series. We're going to get book 2 sometime, I think maybe next year. We're gonna get book 2. Anyway, this one is like a Hollywood romance. Our female main character is a up-and-coming starlet. She was previously just acted on the Broadway stage, and our director, who is the male main character, snatched her up, thought she would be perfect for his biopic film that he is creating, and wants her to be his starlet. And they start working very closely with one another, but they don't want to like tarnish the film in any way, and they try not to act on their desires towards one another, but in a film, like, they're with each other constantly. So their romance begins to form with that. But our family character in this one has lupus, which is something that she has to deal with because it affects like her skin and her hair. And she's very self-conscious of this because she doesn't like being a star and an actor. Like, she has to look good for that. This one was also beautiful. Every Kennedy Ryan book is beautiful. I love her so much. Then Outdrawn by Deanna Gray. This one is a sapphic romance with our female main characters. They are rival comic book artists, but they get jobs at the same place and are tasked with working together now to revitalize a Black female superhero, and they're very like competitive against each other. But one of our characters in this one, she has carpal tunnel and chronic pain from this. And sometimes she pushes herself a little bit too hard and doesn't always necessarily take the time to take care of herself. So this one is another great romance. Then Hear My Heart by Tay Monet. This is a recent read for me. I literally like just finished this a couple days ago, but it was also a very sweet romance, a little bit angsty as well. This one is about our female main character. She is engaged, and then her fiance gets into a car accident and ends up in a coma. So she ends up calling his family and calling his estranged brother to let them all know about this accident. And his brother comes and ends up staying in her house while they're trying to figure out what is going on with her fiance. And she ends up spending more time with the brother and realizing that the brother treats her better than her actual fiance. Her fiance is a freaking tool, okay? Like, so there is cheating in this one, technically, but for me, I didn't really care that much because her fiance sucked and his parents sucked too. I hated all of them. And our male main character of this, the brother, he is like total book boyfriend material. Her disability, she's deaf. She uses hearing aids, but she doesn't always like wearing them because they can hurt her ears. And so sometimes she'll take them off, and her fiance didn't like that, never wanted to learn sign language for her. Just, you know, everything is inconvenient to him. And then the brother is more like, hey, if this works better for you, then I'm going to do what works for you. And he like learned sign language for her, and he's amazing. I loved him. This is a great book. Then we have Never Seduces Scott by Maya Banks. This one might be one of my favorite historical romances. I loved this one. This one is another arranged marriage. This one takes place in like Scotland area, and the female main character is supposed to get married to a rival clan leader. I'm not sure the exact correct term with that. And everybody in her clan and her family thinks that she is simple, I guess is the word to use for that, because she does not speak. So they think she is I don't even remember the word that they use for it, but basically think she's like simple. So they marry her off to this rival clan, and he starts to pick up that it's not that she can't speak, she can't hear. And how his voice is like so deep that she can like hear, but it's more like she can feel like the vibrations of when he speaks, and they form this bond instantly, and it's just I loved it so much. Then we have Barbarian's Touch by Ruby Dixon. This is the 7th book of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. Again, this is like a series of these women that were kidnapped by these bad aliens, and the ship crash lands on the ice planet, and they run into these big blue alien dudes that help to take care of these women. So this story, our male main character really likes our female main character, and he decides to kidnap her for himself, and then finds out that she can't hear. She is deaf. And so this just has one of my favorite tropes to read about in romances, which is that language barrier trope, because he has to try to learn, both of them are kind of trying to learn what each other is saying through their respective languages, since she can't hear. So this one is also one of my favorites from the Ice Planet Barbarian series. Then we have The Scent of Us by Ileana Lee. This is a book that's part 1 and part 2. Part 1 does end on cliffhanger, so you do have to read both of them. But this one is an Omegaverse story, and this one, our female main character, she is an Omega, and they, in this world, have made it possible for Omegas to be able to break unwanted bonds. So she does this because she was in a very abusive pack. And it's like years later, she's gone through some therapies, and now she's out living her best life, and she come across her scent matches, and she doesn't know how she feels about this because she has some of that like past trauma from her previous pack that she was with. So this one, we have PTSD from her past trauma. And then the last book that I have to recommend that I could think of, I'm sure there's tons more that I've read because I love disability representation in my books, is Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. This is another historical romance that I adored. This one, our female main character, she is gifted a castle in somebody's will, and then she goes to this castle and finds out that there's already somebody living in it. There's this duke that claims that it's his, and whoever gifted it to her had no right to do that. So now she's kind of stuck there with this guy. He's very grumpy and curmudgeon-y. He's also blind, and that's part of the reason why he doesn't want to leave, because he has figured out the layout of this place, and he knows how to get around in this place. So this is just a very cute romance story, quite hilarious, perfect banter, very spicy, great historical romance to start off with. Tessa Dare is a great one. So I know this video is going to be really, really long, but I hope you enjoyed it. And please comment down below with any other book recs that you have with that feature disability representation in them, because I want to read more. I just love reading these in my books. It's just so good. But if you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.